Hello, everybody. My name is James Cool. I'm the producing artistic director here at Tipping Point, and we are back again with another TPTalks. TPTalks. When you think about that for a little bit, it trips you up. Regardless, this is starting off brilliantly. I might add. So this talk series, I talk with artists about any number of things. We talk about creativity and artistic output, and what's going on in the world, and how artists are impacted. So today I have with me Ashley Lyle. Hello, Ashley. How are you?
Hi, James. I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. I tend to say that, I'm doing fantastic because there is a certain amount of joy in the micro in this particular moment. But when you really start to think about, our industry and all of the things that and all of the businesses, there's a little bit of like, no, things kind of stink, but here we are learning how to dance in the rain instead of waiting for the storm to pass. So a little intro here for Ashley. Ashley is an actor in the area. If you've been to Tipping Point, you would have seen her in one sandbox. I know one sandbox. Two sandboxes? One sandbox.
Nope, just the one. This past one was my first one.
With the sandbox. She has studied at Wayne State, and also with I want to get it right, Detroit I mess it up. Man, this is brilliant. This is just brilliant. I have my degree in talking. So she studied with the Detroit Performance Workshop. Is that correct?
With John Foreman. Yes, John Foreman. He's my mentor.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit here, Ashley. What is it about theater that you started studying it and wanted to move into it? What is it about theater that brings you, or performance that brings you joy?
I've always been that kind of kid that from the time of preschool where I always wanted to perform. I remember a specific moment where it was a large class performance in preschool, and the closing song that we did was "You've Got a Friend." And it's such a cherished moment of mine that I always hold with me, and it reminds me all the time how much I love to perform. And throughout grade school, I remember one of the teacher aides, she would kind of like just show me off around school because I would always do my own interpretation of opera. So she would just take me off to the classes and say, "This girl right here, she can sing opera, and she's only in the second grade." So mind you, I have no complete classical training in opera whatsoever. I just made the noises that sounded like it was opera.
But it's still that performative aspect of it, and really that's kind of telling for me, and because for me, theater and art and acting isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about revealing the truest parts of who I am, and so to like look at this girl who can sing. She's in the second grade and can do opera. You weren't pretending to be in opera. You're like, right. This is what opera stars do, and you are revealing a part of yourself and the fun and the glory of that. I guess, does that sound accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I was a peculiar kid. I will say that. I loved opera, and then when opera didn't satisfy me anymore, I switched over to the WWE and started watching wrestling. So, again, performative.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, okay, so this might age me a little bit. I think I have years on you, but for me, I would watch it when it was the WWF before it turned into the WWE. So.
I mean, well, how old do you think I am, James? Do you think I'm in like how old do you think I am, honestly? Please flatter me. Please flatter me.
I think you're 30.
Very close, 33.
Okay. All right. I am 40 wonderful. So
okay.
So I do. It's that time frame in there that the WWF then changed the WWE.
Right.
Yeah. We're talking about wrestling now.
I know, right?
But that's not, that might have to be a series, a different one, because I worked with an individual who actually did some of the it wasn't WWE, but the performative type wrestling. And he would come to Greenfield Village and be like, well, they broke a light bulb over my back last week. And we're like, that's
Oh my
insane.
God.
And it's like, no, it's not. I'm okay. I'm like, all right. The big reason that I wanted to bring you on today is because you have created a podcast, and it's BLAQN, and you call it BLAQN, or that's the name of it, BLAQN, but it's an acronym, yes?
Yes, so BLAQN is actually the organization, and it stands for Black Literature and Art Queens Network. And it aims to honor and acknowledge Black women performers and to encourage Michigan theaters to incorporate equity, diversity, and inclusion in their venues and theater spaces. Now, the actual podcast is called Black Queens on Stage. So it's presented by BLAQN, even though this is all of my stuff. But with Black Queens on Stage, I use that as a platform to highlight Black women performers. And when I say women, I'm including those who are women, present women, non-binary individuals as well. And I get an in-depth interview with them, find out about their artistic career and find out the different issues that they've come across as Black artists in this white dominated field.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the organization then, of BLAQN before we move into Black Queens on Stage. How long has this organization it been around? When did you create it? And what kind of things has the organization done before we start talking about the podcast?
Yeah, sure. So BLAQN, I started it in December of 2018, just to at least get a name around for it. And I originally had an idea of doing an award show where I would pick 6 different Black women that have made an impact within the community along with their artistic career, and give them an award that relates to their contributions to the community. Unfortunately, because of low ticket sales, I wasn't able to really launch it like I wanted to. And that happens. So then later on down the line, about several months later, I was able to, and not just me, but I also had like several other women that were helping me with this organization. And they were helping me with like the other different aspects of what needed to be done. And one of the first events that I had was a panel, and it was a panel of Black women that talked about their experiences as performing artists and what it's like being a woman, a Black woman in their artistry and the issues that they've come across.
Now, when you say that's okay, just for clarification. So when you say artistry, that isn't just performers, that it's different types of artistry that might include what?
Well, it's performing arts specifically. Okay. So it would include actors, dancers, singers, burlesque performers, drag performers, poets, anything and in between where people are performing their art on stage.
Wonderful. Thank you. Just wanted to get the scope of it. So yes. Please continue.
Yes. So the second event that I had was a town hall meeting discussing issues within Michigan theater regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion, and how theaters can actually try to incorporate that a little bit more in their theater. And I had a decent turnout. I had a couple of theater friends that came to see it. They really respected, especially my white theater friends, where it never really occurred to them, how, in Michigan theater, there's all these different issues that are going on within the theater community, and nobody's really talking about it. And I think that kind of sparked everything for me, because I knew that there is a place for this, to talk about this stuff. And I wanted to further expand upon it. I just didn't really know how to initially. And then as we go into the year 2020, then we get hit with COVID.
Yep.
So now
Yep.
so now everything is completely shut down. But that gave me the opportunity to really kind of like hone in and try to figure out what is it that I need to do to really get the message out regarding BLAQN, and to actually launch the podcast, Black Queens on Stage. And because I know that I needed something to elevate the message that BLAQN holds, and there was no other idea that I could think of other than a podcast. And that's how that was born. That started on Juneteenth. The first episode was Juneteenth. The audio version. Let me be clear with that. The first audio episode was available on Juneteenth. But I had Instagram interviews. I think it was May 28th was the first one, I believe. So then I was able to contact different women, 3 of them specifically. First one was Deborah Lane Spencer. The second one was Elise King. And the third one was Andrea. Deborah Lane Spencer is an actor. She has several short films on Amazon, and she's done theater work as well. Elise King is a singer, and who is a fantastic singer. She's performed at MGM Casino, Greektown, different festivals around the state. And then Andrea is an up-and-coming stilettos dancer, and you know, she had a workshop as well, but of course with COVID, that shut everything down.
Yep.
So then once COVID kind of like laid the groundwork of the racism that was going on in regards to taking care of patients that had COVID, that was already kind of there in the air. And then all of a sudden, George Floyd, and then Tony McDade and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. And then as the weeks went on, so many other victims that lost their lives came into play. So then the Broadway community really started going in as well about how racist Broadway is. And then it trickled down to where different theater communities started talking about it, and it hit Michigan. What really set me off into motion with this was a quote that Dan Johnson had put on his Facebook page. And it resonated so much with me that I had to speak my piece as well. Like, yes, this is what has happened with me as well in Michigan theater. And it's unfortunate that we have to deal with this, because we either want to work in that show, or we want to make sure that we get paid and we can still can continue to do shows and not be labeled as difficult.
Yeah.
So once I started speaking my voice regarding it, Dan Johnson and we started talking together, and we've been hitting the ground running with everything. And that's why I definitely want to make sure that the Black Conference happened on Juneteenth, because Juneteenth is symbolic for the Black community. And I wanted it to be where it was something that was memorable, where people would be talking about it. And, you know, thankfully with Dan Johnson and all of his help, and then I had my wonderful panelists, it went off without a hitch. And then not only that, but as far as getting the word out as well, Krista Eubank and Sarah Hawkins Moan, Sarah Hawkins, between the two of them getting all that information out, it was timely, and it's so well appreciated. I honestly, I keep telling them, I said, I don't even think that I would have gotten the amount of people watching it if it wasn't for you guys on, sending out the emails, and then Dan Johnson putting his 2 cents in.
So you've put out a couple of names, and just to kind of help some of our viewers who might not know some of these names, Dan Johnson is a local actor as well. I think that Theater Nova, he's worked at Theater Nova, and
Yes.
I believe the Purple Rose. I think that he has worked at the Purple Rose as well.
Yes. Dan is a phenomenal actor.
Mhm.
Phenomenal actor.
Wayne State as well. Is it? Do I
I think
remember correctly? Or
I
was it
think he actually went to Eastern.
Eastern?
Yes.
Okay, that was my second choice. But that connects it in because Sarah Hawkins is, I believe, an adjunct professor at Eastern. Sarah is also an actress. You would have seen her on the on Tipping Point stage during office hours. Also a graduate from Wayne State. And then there was another name. Oh, Krista.
Krista.
Yeah, Krista runs and operates Open Book Theater, which is a theater that's located downriver. So all of these are wonderful artists. You can find all of them in places, and they're definitely worth supporting
Yes.
in all of these things. So
Yes.
there's a fill-in of some of those names.
Right. Right. I'm just, just throwing the names out
Oh,
without
it's
really.
absolutely fine. That's one of the things like here with with it, because you talked about the learning curve or that sort of process. Because the first one was audio, and then with COVID, we moved into the video of things. And this is one of those big things that you can really see artists adapting. Like that we have this limitation. One of those stakes in the ground for me that I always talk about is finding freedom within the limitations. Well, there's some really healthy limitations with creating theater right now, but that need to continue to create, to adapt, and the limitation is that we can't be in the same room together. And so all of this bursting of online things, the podcast, with BLAQN or the Black Queens on Stage, that is happening, and that is continued because now I believe we're starting, dare I say, a series. Would that be accurate?
Yes, yes. So this has turned into a short series where we already did the first part, the part one of the Black conference, and we talked about a multitude of different issues, like blackface in the theater, microaggressions, alienation, um, a lot of different topics that us as Black actors are afraid to really talk about because, like I said, we don't want to be labeled as difficult. We don't want to be labeled as hard to work with, so we keep it completely inside. And that inherently destroys our creative process because we have to deal with this extra nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and then try to keep it completely in and have a smile on our face and still act like we can just easily get along with folks,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate. It really,
That-
really is.
Yeah, I think unfortunate is actually a pretty weak word for it. Like,
Yeah.
the more that you start to put yourself in shoes of individuals that experience these types of things, it's both been very telling for me, a white man in a position of power here, but it happened to me. That a similar thing happened to me, and the first time was with the Me Too movement, when that hashtag really took off as it started to trending, where people, if they had experienced this, were simply putting Me Too as their Facebook status. And as I didn't know what was happening, and all of a sudden, like virtually 100% of the women that I was connected with on Facebook had it on there. And it kind of shook me to the depth of it, and the implications that it has for all of the women in my life. But then the same thing happened with the George Floyd protests. It's not that I didn't know that things were that it existed, or that we were ignoring that it existed. It was that dear friends of mine were saying, if I've worked in your theater, it has happened to me in your theater. Like 100%, you know, I have, and the big one that hit me was, I have not felt safe. If I've worked in your theater, I have not felt safe at some point in your theater. And that, for, you know, for me as a person who tries to create theater and create a space, not just a space, but a safe space for all of my artists, something like that, you know, I want to say it was one of those
Jarring.
Yeah, jarring, because of exactly what it is that you were saying, putting on the face that you do feel safe, that you do feel comfortable, as a person of color in there, when the reality is, at some point during the process, you didn't. And I don't know exactly where the question is with it, except for to say, like, continue. I want to say, continue to say when you don't feel safe or comfortable. Continue to do that, please. I need to get a question in here, or can you please save me from my words coming out of my mouth?
With what we've been doing with the Black Conference, the Black Actor Conference, it was definitely something that needed to be done. And quite honestly, it originally was not my idea. It was the idea of Mike Sandusky, Brianna Hall, and Gail Martin. Those three, from what Mike Sandusky told me, it was a conversation where he said, you know, I wish that we could have something where we can speak our piece and talk about what's going on. And then it hit me, and I said to him, well, you know, I do have a podcast that I just created. And what we could all do is just come together and put this on Facebook, let this be live, so that way it would be in real time and people can actually see that while it may have happened prior to COVID, it still completely affects us.
Yes.
You know? And I was just, I honestly, I'm normally a pessimist by heart, because I know that, you know, some people are finicky about dedicating to stuff or finicky about watching stuff. But I was so blown away by the amount of people that were supporting it, you know? From what I recall, there was at least 70 people that were watching the video. And I couldn't believe that. I was just like, wow, that's a whole heck of a lot more than I would have ever expected. And I hope to expect more for the second part. And because Dan and I were both reaching out to other theater locations. I've reached out to Face Off Theater out in Kalamazoo to let them know, like, hey, I'm doing this Black Actor Conference. I would love for you guys to tune in and watch it. But yeah, it was just something that was definitely needed, something that it was time for, and especially since we're not doing anything. We're definitely not doing anything. So, you know, it's a good time than any, you know.
To clean house.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, you know.
And not even just clean house, but to reorganize the house, you know. I've seen several of my friends who are within the community theater community, talking about how their experiences, and I've been in community theater as well, and that I feel is where I experience the most disappointing behavior. But like, they tell me things that that have gone on with them, and, you know, especially everything that has happened. Well, now theaters are making a space for them, which in a sense is a bit troubling, because that space could have been made for them prior to all of this.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't want to say beggars can't be choosy, but it's good now that they are making that space and they see how important it is that the space is made for them.
You know, I had a I had a talk with Emilio Rodriguez of Black and Brown Theater, and one of the things that that continues to kind of come up for for me, or that it came out in the interview, is that we have to do better. We have to do better. You know, it's not that that necessarily that space wasn't being created, but it wasn't enough space. You know, if there, be better. We have to be better. It continues to ring true for me anyway.
Definitely.
Let's so right now we have a series. Right now in the series, you have two. You have the initial
conference. Yep.
Thank you. And then you did a Q&A of that phase 1 or volume 1 conference. And then we have in the works volume 2. Yes?
Yes. So part 2 will be next week on June 3rd. I'm sorry. We're already in June. I'm sorry, July 3rd. July 3rd. The second part will happen then. And that will be the remaining of the topics that we didn't get a chance to cover in the first part. So that will include character archetypes, Black actors finally getting the chance to work with an all Black cast or script or director or all three, and ways that Michigan theater can move forward. Great. And how they can progress and how they can learn, adapt, and change. And then the week after that will be the second Q&A.
Great. And that's what I was gonna, I'm like, I'm hoping there's a Q&A following that one too.
Yes, there was actually, because we just finished the first Q&A today, there were quite a bit of questions. You know, it was a bit slow coming in, but they once people started listening and paying attention, then the questions came to them, and then, you know, the chat box became overflooded with questions. So I hope that everybody will, you know, remember their questions from then and ask us again in the second one. Hopefully we'll be able to get to it. But I truly appreciate the engagement that people are giving us in regards to this. It was immediately right after the first conference, so many people reached out to me and thanked me for my honesty, you know. And I definitely appreciate everybody that said that they thanked me for my honesty and, you know, standing up to it. But what I really want to see more than anything, and especially when it comes to like social media posts from theater companies and giving Black artists a seat at their board table, I want to actually see that change happen.
Yeah.
You know, because actions definitely speak a heck of a lot louder than words. Right. So, like I said, I'm a pessimist at heart. I will see it before I believe it. I mean, I will believe it before I see it.
So we've been talking about it. Why don't you let people know where they can go to see all of the past podcasts, or to make sure that they know when new podcasts are going, and to keep in touch with the organization.
Yes. So all of our Black Actor Conference Facebook Live events have been on the Facebook page, which is BLAQN, BLAQN. And you can find it if you do a search and say BLAQ Show Michigan. We also have an Instagram account, BLAQN Show Michigan, and then a Twitter, BLAQNMI. And for the podcast, the actual audio of the podcast, there's 3 episodes up right now. There's 2 bonus episodes, which is the audio version of Elise King and the audio version of Andrea's episodes. Those are on there. And then the third, which is the actual first episode of it, is with Andrea Patterson, who performed at Detroit Public Theater in the show Paradise Blue, and she was amazing in it.
I missed Paradise Blue. I'm
It
so
was
upset.
amazing.
I
Oh my
believe it.
gosh.
I believe it.
Oh God, it was so, and you know, the two women that were in the show, Andrea and I want to say her name is Colette, and I'm terrible with names, but those two women, they were, oh God, they were just so phenomenal. The entire cast period was great, really, really great. But it was those two women right there. They were fantastic, flippin' tastic.
The Detroit Public, wonderful
Yes.
theater, wonderful professional theater, great organization. They do fantastic shows. Check them out. But also, we want to have you check out your new employer, Ashley, which would be the Detroit Repertory Theater. I believe the longest running professional theater in Michigan.
Yes, yes, the
That's
longest running union equity theater in Michigan. They've been doing the work for 63 years. You know, and when I refer to the work being where they cast people unless it states specifically in the script regarding their race or identity. They cast people based on their ability to perform the work, regardless of race. So they've been doing that for 63 years when it was illegal, you know? So, and I on my own personal Facebook post, I put up a long, beautiful, wonderfully accepting post about it and about how proud I am that I'm able to actually get the chance to work at the Rep and to actually work with a great group of people, Leah Smith, Cassandra Freeman, Barb Busby, and of course the artistic director, Bruce
Yeah.
Millen.
Yes.
And it's just thinking about it just really, really puts a big smile on my face because I've seen the work that they do. They do tremendous work. And especially since I was actually in the middle of getting ready for a show there right when COVID happened, you know. It was called Rules for Active Shooters, and it's a great show, really great show. So I can't wait when the season starts back up, which will be in January, and that will be the first show to start the whole season up. So
right. Wonderful.
Really excited about that.
So all sorts of things for people to check out. You need to check out the Detroit Rep. You need to check out the Detroit Public. You need to go on Facebook and find BLAQN, BLAQN, and all of the variants thereof, which I'm sure we'll have posted with this video. Check out all of these things. Ashley, you're doing fantastic work. It's a true service to our community, and I'm very happy to listen and to change and to be better. So thank you very much for what it is that you are doing, and thank you for taking this time today and talking with me, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. I appreciate this so much, James. I really, really do. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I look forward to having you in the theater again soon.
Well, you need to put me in one of your shows.
I know. We need to start doing shows again. That's what we need to do. But we can't right now.
I know, right?
We're jumping off the walls here. So lots of planning to have happen.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a good day.
You too.